Hello and welcome to Nerus. Today we'll continue where we left off, which if you recall, was right after Shax and Nomino had a very intense conversation about what was about to come and which side were they on. And after that talk, which was behind Nerus's back, Nerus and Shax shared a couple of cute moments that then became a little bit more intimate. And well, this will be the last part of the prologue of the story. Remember to tell Nero if you want us to keep reading. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Hey, Nerus?
What is it, Shax?
I was lying on his abdomen, playing with his fur as we waited to get unstuck. What do you think we have bodies for?
Well, we need them for our souls to survive here.
What I mean is, the Eons make them out to be a necessary evil. But I'm not so sure about that. Will we even still be ourselves without any difference, without our bodies? What do you think?
That is genuinely a good question, but I am not in a state to say anything insightful at the moment.
I suppose so. It just. This feels right. I don't mean it only physically. It's like my soul wants for this. But how can the soul crave for something that is physical? Our souls, they are affected by our physical experiences. Our bodies aren't just pieces of meat or tools for survival.
Don't go around sharing those thoughts with other shapeshifters. Some of them might brand you as an heretic for questioning the eons. Not that I don't agree, for the record. I have to admit, I wasn't expecting sex of all things to put you in a philosophy mood.
Nerus chuckled as he placed one hand to my head and dragged it to my back. Oh, hey! I think it's loose enough now.
Try not to make a mess. Think of poor Sabos.
What? Mess or not, no way I'm having him wash these sheets. It will be weird.
Will you do it instead?
Yes, and I'll make you help because I don't know how to use the washing machine here.
Wake up.
I came to my senses in Nerus's room. The great shapeshifter's white arms squeezed me against his chest. I could feel his heartbeat through him. When I stayed out to sleep under the stars, I would get close to the campfire to conserve heat. Because I enjoyed those nights so much, I started to love the smell of burning wood. It tickled my nose a little, but it helped me relax. It made me sleepy. Now, it was as if the fire had taken shape to gently wrap me in a burning yet harmless embrace. I almost let it lure me back into the world of dreams. But the sound of footsteps pulled me back into reality. Huh? Is that Sebos? This late at night? After some deliberation, I crawled down, slipping off Nerus's embrace and off the bed. I started trembling from the cold that plagued the house at all times. I already missed the bed. Whatever, I'll just check what that noise was. I crossed my arms and I looked around the room, squinting at the dark. This isn't normal. Not even in complete darkness should I have this much trouble seeing anything. This is mist. A thick fog permeated the entire room, limiting my vision more than usual. Regardless, I could tell the noise had come from outside, so I tiptoed to the hallway door and opened it. The same haze filled the hallway, although, thanks to the lights, I was able to see more clearly in there. Under the light, the fog seemed to form small streams of vapor that flowed in from the other end of the corridor. I closed the door behind me and I stepped deeper into the corridor, trying to discern where the fog originated from. I didn't need to look too far. When I passed by my bedchamber, I spotted a cloud of mist, thick enough I couldn't even call it translucent, overflowing from under the door. I almost felt beckoned by it. Under different circumstances, I would have been frightened enough to run back to Nerus' bedchamber and wake him up so he would check this out for me. But now, I felt calm. I didn't open the door. Instead, I turned around and sat down, reclining against it. What are you doing here?
You know that already.
In that case, I suppose I'll tell you the same as the last time. Come back later.
How long do you intend to keep us waiting?
I'm afraid you will have to wait for me for at least another month. Sorry, but I was never one to stick to the rules, was I?
Why? If you truly remember, then why?
It's because I remember that I won't let go. I interrupted the voice. The silence that befell the hallway made me think the fever was making me hear things, but the noise coming from within my dormitory reminded me all this was very real. I need to endure this, to remember this.
You will suffer.
I know, but if I don't, then it might be all over for them, and for us as well. You're aware of that, right? I can't let things end like this.
I don't understand. If that's what you want, why wouldn't you come with me? Is it because you want to remember this? Why is that so important to you?
I wouldn't think too much about it. Sometimes, the simplest answer is the right one. But if you don't wanna guess, well, I think I found something I don't wanna leave behind. It's as if, even before I became this, the reason I was born was to meet him, all along.
That's ridiculous. It can't be true, and you know it.
According to whom? Actually, don't answer that. They don't get a say on it, no matter who they are. I refuse to let a third party dictate who or what I should devote myself to. Regardless of if it's true or not, regardless of the motive, what I'm feeling right now, it's important to me. That alone is enough for me to fight to remember it. Then, there was silence. I waited for the voice to speak again, but it never did. Hey, have you ever stopped to think about what we really are? Are you still there? I asked, to no avail. The fog in the hallway was dissipating. Figures. I tried to get on my feet, but at the last moment, my strength abandoned me, and I fell headfirst on the cold floor. Ouch! I clenched my teeth, and I tried to get up again, without success. My vision started to get blurry at the same time I heard a pair of heavy footsteps coming my way. Then I heard a familiar voice, and everything went black.
Shax? Shax! I darted Shax into the bedchamber, carrying the small shapeshifter in my arms. I laid him down on the bed as delicately as I could and put my hand on his forehead. He was burning. Damn it. Sebos, wake up! We need a doctor! I called out, sprinting out of the room. He seemed fine before we went to sleep. I have been making sure to keep an eye on him ever since I was informed about the new symptoms last month, and nothing seemed to be wrong. I explained to the doctor, my voice filled with frustration. The doctor sat on a chair beside Shax's bed. He was examining him.
That is strange, for all the other patients showed progressively worsening symptoms.
The doctor gave me a meaningful look. I didn't want to consider what he was implying, because it made no sense to me. Why would Shax hide the fact he's sick? Because he's afraid I will treat him differently because of it. No, that's ridiculous. But whether he did hide it or not does not matter right now. Ensuring his recovery is more important. In any event, do you think it will be best to move him to a hospital? Before the doctor could answer, the weakened Shax was able to cut into the conversation with one simple but heartfelt sentence.
No. I want to stay here with you.
I opened my mouth as to retort, to tell him he will be better under the care of professionals, but the words wouldn't come up. Those words stole all the vigor from my body. I stood still, watching him with regret, both because of how powerless I was, and for even considering denying him his request. The doctor gave me a solemn look before clearing his throat.
If Shax wants to stay here, I believe he should. I trust you have been made aware of the latest development concerning the Soul Amnesiac's great shapeshifter?
Yes, I was informed about the disappearances a few days ago.
Patients are vanishing without a trace, even from hospitals. It's impossible for that to be the product of an illness. There is something else in the works here. Considering the circumstances, he might be safer near a great shapeshifter than surrounded by doctors and a couple of common guards. Besides, soul amnesia is, as the name states, an illness of the soul. Removing him from here against his will might worsen his condition.
Yes, that is right.
And I don't think I need to tell you this, but even if he stays, he can't work in this condition.
Obviously. Sebos is calling a replacement as we speak.
Well, there isn't much else I can do now, so I will be taking my leave now. I know some colleagues that could come and stay here to monitor Shax's condition if you feel you need them. And while it won't cure the soul amnesia, there is some medicine I can give him in order to relieve the physical symptoms.
I will consider it. For the time being, tell me what medicine we should administrate. The doctor took out a notepad and scribbled something for giving the patient and handing it to me.
I'm afraid it's mostly painkillers and medicine to help reduce the fever. I wish I could recommend a more definitive solution. However,
It is not your fault. Thank you for giving me this, at least.
no need to thank me. I hope everything turns out okay. And call me if you need anything, great shapeshifter. Stay strong, Shax. Yeah. Farewell, then.
He excused himself out. I sighed, tired and still frustrated. I sat down next to Shax. His eyes were staring nowhere in particular.
Nerus?
Yes, Shax?
Oh, I just wanted to know if you were there. Sorry, I can't see very well.
I am aware. Do not worry about that now. Just relax and get some rest. I am not moving from here. So relax so you can get better, okay?
Don't sound so sad now. I'll be fine.
It shocked me that he could still proclaim that with such conviction, but I figured he was trying to stay positive. Moved by his determination, I placed a hand on his shoulder and snuggled my face up to his.
As long as you are here, I promise you, I'll be fine. Please, don't just go away and leave me here.
I will never. I couldn't finish that sentence. My voice cracked and a sob escaped my throat.
Nerus, are you crying?
I rubbed my face with my forearm. No, of course not. We will get through this together, understand?
When did it become so easy to see through you, I wonder?
That is all thanks to you. Shax held my hand. Focus returning to his eyes.
Look, I'm not trying to be optimistic. I really mean it. Everything will be alright. Believe me when I tell you that. Yes?
Yes, I promise. I really meant it. I was determined to stay by his side and believe he will make a recovery. And so, I ordered Sebos to bring our food to Shax's bedchamber from that day on. That way I could eat by his side, morning and night. I also started bringing whatever documents I will need to sort out with me, so I could work while I looked over him. In a way, it wasn't too different from when we would spend time together in my study. But that will change at a moment's notice once the symptoms manifested.
Nerus, what is up with this book?
Seed of Hate. I assume you just got to the end, yes?
Yes, except there is no end. It just doesn't continue past this point.
Indeed. It does not look like it was finished. The author must have given up on writing the ending.
It's kind of cheesy, but I...
Shax, hold on. I let go of my pen and got up to get Shax's medicine. Most of the time, Shax will be his usual self, but all of a sudden his entire body will start hurting. It was either that or a sudden fever outbreak that will knock him down for an hour or two. But when he will start hurting was the worst of the two. The medicine alleviated only a small part of his pain. And despite that, it will still get bad enough for Shax to write in pain in his bed, tears in his eyes. Shax, please hang in there. I couldn't do anything but try to talk to him, Watching him like that made my entire being shake. I wanted to cry and to hold him, but I didn't dare in case it will make his pain worse. All I could do to comfort myself was to try to convince me this will be over soon, that Shax will return to his usual self any day now. But time soon will start eroding that hope. He is out cold. He vomited before passing out. I better change the sheets again and wash him. I took Shax on my arms and put him down on the chair I was using for the time being. Then I started stripping the bed. My nostrils flared as the smell of vomit started spreading in the room, but I didn't let that distract me. Shax, please get better soon. Fierce Nomino announces we will fight the angels, and now this. Just, why is all of this happening? If we are to be separated soon, at the very least, I didn't want it to end on a bad note, and much less like this. It has been 2 weeks already. Just around 2 more until the battle. What will I even do when the time comes? Sebos, are you there? Is there anything I can do for you, Master? I heard his voice coming from the other side of the hallway door. I told him to come in and handed him the dirty blankets. Can you clean the sheets, please? And make up the bed while I'm washing Shax. Of course, Master. Anything you need. I smiled at the servant. Thank you. I took Shax's sheer stuff, saying he had vomited on it as well, and handed it to Sebos before taking the small shapeshifter with me to the bathroom. Since Shax was still out, I didn't want to give him a full bath. I limited myself to washing his chest and abdomen with a sponge, and after drying him, I took him back to the bedroom. Sebos had already made the bed and taken the dirty clothes away with him. After putting a new shirt on Shax, I lifted the covers and tucked him in. I stood there, observing him. He had been in so much pain, he had vomited and passed out from it. If I entered the room with the knowledge of what had transpired, I would think he had been napping. Why couldn't that not be the truth? Unable to do anything else for the time being, I sat down and renounced to work. But still, that was just the beginning. A week after, his feathers started falling off, replaced with red rashes, and blood will start dripping from his mouth and orifices. When this started happening, we called the doctor again, but he was just as lost as us. No matter who examined Shax, no one could determine the cause behind the new symptoms. They were all puzzled, especially because there were symptoms that the other patients hadn't shown. I was afflicted with a worry and sadness so great. There were times I couldn't sleep and sat by Shax's side all night. But as for Shax himself, he seemed numb to the entire thing. At that point, he was unconscious more often than not. But the times he was awake, he seemed distant, as if he didn't even notice what was happening to him. Even so, he still reassured me he would be fine. I wasn't sure of that anymore.
I pushed my eyelids open. The first thing I saw was my blurry nightstand. In my eyes, there was a haze from when you wake up from a long dream, still unsure if you're still asleep or if this is real. but the familiar sound of Nerus writing something on the desk clued me that this was the ladder. I struggled to turn my hair around, and there he was. He had set up a relatively small desk next to the bed, where the other nightstand used to be, and he worked there at the same time as he watched over me. I couldn't put into words how grateful I was that he had taken my words to heart, enough to go to this length for me. I was aware I hadn't been conscious a great deal of time lately, but every single time I opened my eyes, he had always been there, looking out for me. Perhaps he thought he was fulfilling the last wish of his dying lover. But this was so much more than that for me. Deep down, I still was scared, but now a sense of peace washed over me. Nerus. The great shapeshifter's ears perked at the sound of my voice.
Shax, you're awake. Thank goodness. You have been out for so long, I was worried sick.
How long have I been out?
Since 2 days ago. I was afraid you were... well... but more importantly, are you feeling alright? Tell me if you need me to bring you anything.
Hey, Nerus. How long has it been?
I assume you mean since you fell sick. This is the 4th week, I believe.
I see. I lost track around the 4th time I passed out.
I'm so sorry, Shax. I wish there was something
Nerus. You have done more than enough. I interrupted him and tried to sit up. The great shapeshifter got up from his seat and helped me up. That is, when I saw my own arms, I was taken aback at the sight of them. They were unrecognizable from how they had been just weeks ago. I couldn't begin to imagine what my entire body must have looked like at the time. At first, I thought they were bloody. But no. It was the rashes and the scabs covering almost every single centimeter of them. Some zones had even taken a black coloration. In any case, my vision was fuzzy, and it didn't even seem quite in sync with what I was telling my limbs to do. Had I not been clinging to Nerus' arms, I might have not managed to even get up from the mattress. I could tell my body was at its absolute limit. I was lucky to even be awake now. Nerus, listen to me. A white shape I assumed to be his ears perked up again, and I think he faced me, waiting for me to continue. Where to start? Remember the story of how I got here?
Yes.
I could tell a concerned expression was starting to form in his face. With life abandoning me with every passing second, I decided to try to get to the point. I wanted to be courageous enough to tell him at least one thing before this form faded away. Because of what my family does to mortals, I was forced to do terrible things to people dear to me. After that, I decided I wasn't going to put up with them anymore. And you know how that ended, right?
Why are you bringing this up now, Shax?
I don't want that to happen again. To lose someone I love because I was too hesitant to act.
What? Shax?
I know. Right now, I must be sounding downright delirious to you, because I am the one about to die. But, you see, I have been keeping a secret from you. A very important secret.
What is that?
I wrapped my arms around his shoulders in an attempt at getting closer to him. Noticing this, the great shapeshifter sat on the bed next to me and imitated the gesture, pulling me close to him. As I rested my head on his shoulder, I could tell the side of his face was wet. Thanks.
You are trembling. Are you sure you're fine?
As I said, there is something I need to tell you. It's better if I say it right now.
It sounds like it's serious. What is it?
Again, don't freak out. But I tried to gather my wits to find the right words. But there was nothing left to think about. I just needed to go with the truth and believe. Nerus, I am not a shapeshifter, but... And before I could finish uttering that sentence, life evaporated from my flesh.
I didn't think this would happen. So you really don't? I will fix this. I promise. So stick with me. Please. Open your eyes and look. I need you. Please.
Hello and welcome to Nerus.
Hello and welcome to Nerus.
Okay, today, to whatever we will be talking a little bit about these last few episodes and our personal thoughts. So, Bear, what did you think about it? What did you think about the story so far?
Well, it went a little bit faster than I expected, but it was very long as well. Thinking that it was just a prologue, it's actually a pretty long prologue. Like it's in on itself a chapter, so it's interesting to see how much like mystery there is, and I really liked it. The mystery was like up front, and I think the romance between Shax and Nerus was second. But I think it like complements with the story very good because like their love it's like the centerpiece of the mystery, I think, or at least it's like a very big clue.
Well, the story so far poses quite a few questions, quite a few mysteries from the get go, which I assume is what the author is telling us to solve based on the main screen, on the screen of chapter selection. Especially because, well, when I started reading this novel, it only got to this chapter, to this part. Later, I found out like it had a new chapter was released, but I didn't want when I started reading this visual novel with you. I didn't want to go any further to avoid like spoilers and try to solve with what we were served.
And well, as we want to engage with the story, and hopefully, if the author is out there and can solve or can do a little wink to us in the comments, we want to try to answer a couple of questions that we asked ourselves while reading this, or try to solve the mystery on ourselves. And if you have any theory or you want to bounce your thoughts with us, well, put them on the comment section. And the first question we have that we want to answer, it's like, what is Shax?
Well, I think a pretty strong theory is that Shax might actually be like an angel reincarnated into a shapeshifter. And I think there's a lot of, I don't know, evidence to point into that direction. Before Nerus introduced himself to Shax as Nerus after the dance, Shax during his inner monologue was already calling him that way. And then, when asking him about that nickname, Nerus said that it was a name that maybe someone long time ago gave to him. Well, there's also this little story about Nerus meeting with an angel, but not on hostile terms, but rather in a very friendly manner.
But I think it's pretty clear that Shax it's not what it seems to be. Especially because at the very end he tells us that he is not a shapeshifter. And what other alternatives there are? Like the whole time the story told us about the angels and the shapeshifters and mortals, but I do not think Shax is a mortal. I actually think Shax is an angel reincarnated because they say that the angels cannot die, they are immortal, but they need to dwindle their numbers so the shapeshifters can like control them in a way, or at least like not get overrun by angels. And we also know that angels are powerful. Like it's not a good idea to call attention to yourself, or call the attention of the angels to the shapeshifter cause. But I think that it's pretty blatant that Nerus got in contact with an angel in the First War. Like he got in very friendly terms. He got like I don't know. He got captivated by angels, but probably this angel died because we have no other evidence that this angel keep existing, and we know a lot of angels died. So we also got the soul amnesia, right? But nothing like tell us Shax is not an angel reincarnated in a shapeshifter, but we have this piece of dialogue that says that Shax thinks that his body is not like all that necessary to keep existing, right? Like to be yourself. So I think in this way Shax is telling us that yeah, maybe he is other thing, maybe he is an angel, but he is enjoying this life. He is himself, he is the soul of an angel, and he is now in the body of a shapeshifter that wants to love Nero once again.
There's also these little bits of dialogue that imply that Shax knew Nomino in a past life. Obviously, Nomino recognizes him, and he was like kinda surprised when he introduced himself by his new identity of Shax. And right before Shax's condition started to worsen, when he talked to Nomino, well, Shax already had remembered a lot of things about his past life. At least he knew he was not a shapeshifter. Even if he had some memories of who he used to be, he didn't remember all of it because Nomino still talked to him about the Red Manor and something about a promise he made.
Well, I also think that Shax is not the only angel that is reincarnating in a shapeshifter. I really think that the soul amnesiacs are actually angels being reincarnated because it's a condition that it's only appearing. Like there's only one generation or two at the moment with soul amnesia, and the condition is just starting to worsen. But like, why is this? And why is like in every single shapeshifter that it's suffering from it, and everyone said it like it's not a sickness that it's caused by bacteria or something. It's not a sickness caused by a virus. It's a sickness from the soul, and I think that the angel souls are in the shapeshifter bodies, but the shapeshifter bodies cannot contain an angel soul, so they start dying. And so close to the war of the angels, I believe like the angel souls are trying to reincarnate once again in their original form. So if a soul is inside a shapeshifter, the only way to be like free again is to die. And this is what I think happened to Shax. Like he knew he was going to die because he knew what he was, but he wanted to hold onto it as long as possible.
Which brings me, well, which brings to like the next point. Like, why did he insist on staying with Nerus when he was about to die? I believe it's because, well, whenever they reincarnate, they lose some of their memories unless they are like pure shapeshifters, right? But in Shax's case, he was like very convinced that if he stayed with Nerus and if he went through all the pain and everything, things were going to be alright. And that makes me believe that he was convinced that if he stayed enough time with Nerus and if he managed to bear through all that pain, then in his next life he will be able to remember his past life and he will be able to contact Nerus. That's why he was so insistent on staying with him and hold on until the very last moment before the war began. Now let's talk a bit about Nerus. So this chapter provided us with a few questions about the great shapeshifter himself. We know for a fact that he is very old, that he's lived through a lot, but curiously enough, he cannot remember a lot of his life.
He doesn't remember shit. Like, he is just there. He also mentions that, yeah, he knows who he is. He knows he lives in the place. He knows what he's supposed to do, but he doesn't remember anything else. Like, anyone has like commented on this. Anyone has tried to remember him. They all just assume he is what he is, and he accepts it. And it's not only until Shax comes into his life that he starts questioning stuff. Like, literally, he starts to question, why does he have those bottles of wine in his house that he doesn't remember? What does he remember about the war? He does, like, he actively tries to remember stuff, and it's not something that it's just there for him.
That's a very interesting point because there's a little scene in which Shax asks him for his earliest memory, and well, he can't go really far, really past far before he arrived at the manor. He remembers about bringing the flowers to the manor, which I find like very interesting. But well, this kinda brings a point to talk about the manor itself. Whenever there's this thing like a static noise, it's always when it's on Nerus's point of view, and it's always when he is inside the manor, and always whenever like whenever Nerus is run into something important. Like the first time it happened was around when Nerus found out Shax was reading a file about the Red Manor during the times Shax was laying ill on his bed. It appeared a couple of more times. And also right after Shax died, the static appeared. I don't know, I think that's a like very interesting point of discussion because it makes me think like these little scenes with the static is what they are trying to convey is that someone is tampering with Nerus's memories. And if we take into account that Nerus doesn't remember much beyond what he had lived inside the mansion, then it makes me think that maybe it's the mansion itself that is tampering with Nerus's memories, Nerus's recollection of events.
Yeah, I think that too. Because, well, one theory could be like Shax is the one doing it, no? Like Shax is the one interfering with his memories. But I don't think that's possible because Shax is also being antagonized by this static because he is trying to tell something important to Neru and the static comes and washes it away. So I think he's also a victim of this. But the only one realizing that this is happening, funnily enough, it's Neru because we can only hear the static in his head. We can only hear his thoughts being interrupted by this is the thing. And I believe it's the manor because why doesn't he remember anything outside of it? Why does he always have to be inside of the manor? Why does he was confined to be or to do this job for the shapeshifters and always be in this place? And why is he miserable inside of this mansion? Like his whole life is his job and he doesn't get another chance at life until Shax arrives and tries to get him out. Like takes him to the beach, takes him to dance, takes him to a lot of places, and it's only then that Nero starts to like go out of its way, and the manor doesn't like that. So every time that Shax tells something important or tries to make Nero remember something important, like in the case of the read manor file, the static comes and washes it away. And I think that it's also the author telling us that the thing that just happened, or the thing that was said, or that maybe he doesn't remember, it's important because there is a gap. There is something that it's not telling us. And in a way, the game not telling us what it is, but telling us that there is something is a clue on itself. Like the Red Manor, it's an important piece of information because the game doesn't want us to know, or at least doesn't want Nero to know. The game wants us to know, but not Nero or Shax for the matter. And like the other very important part was when he was dying, and Shax was about to tell him something super important, but he dies before he manages to do it. But I believe that the manor was the one to erase that memory. That Nero thinks that he didn't listen to his last words, but he actually did. It's the manor that it's trying to interfere with those memories, with those very fucking important memories.
Yeah, that also raises well, a little bit more of a crackpot theory, but if this is a recollection of events, if Shax and Nerus are telling this and trying like to remember, then who are they telling these events to? Like, do you think like it's just the way of the author has to tell like the story, or like in game they are actually telling the story to someone else? I think about this because the choice to use like static to convey these memory gaps, I was thinking that maybe somehow this might be what we are reading, might be some kind of like recording, and it's precisely because of the static that we can know that these recordings have been tampered with. Like it's kind of a cue to let us know about it. Like this is more into speculation territory, but I don't know. It might be explored upon later. It might be not. But I don't know. I think it was just interesting to mention.
And the other next question is, what is up with Domino? What is he planning? Well, he makes it very clear what is he planning. Like he wants to keep the war going, but with a twist. He wants to bring an Eon. The Eons supposedly are kind of like the bosses of the shapeshifters. They are the ones telling them to gather noses for them, for the war and for other stuff, I guess.
Oh yeah, explain what noses are.
Gnosis is like spiritual energy that it comes from the souls of mortals. This is why shapeshifters want to expand. This is why shapeshifters like lure mortals to take their souls. This is what the family of Shax was doing, and Shax didn't like it because it was like taking advantage of them, fooling them into thinking they were their friends, and then taking their souls. It is not explained how, but well, we know they just probably die, or they are horribly killed. I don't know. But the thing is that Nomino knows this is happening, but also maybe, just maybe, he is not okay with it. He might be the first one to be born, the first shapeshifter, and he might be the strongest and probably the boss of everyone. And he is the one who hears or can talk to the Eons. But he makes it clear to Shax that he is not on cahoots with the Eons. At least that's why he says. Maybe it's like a way to trick Shax too, but why would he do that? What I think is that Nomino wants to bring a Neon and kill it. Like he wants to even the field. He wants to be free, just like Nero wants to be free. Like Nomino knows they are slaves to the Eons. Like they are doing their dirty work, but shapeshifters can exist besides the mortals. Shapeshifters can exist with the angels, but it's the Eons that are like eager in this war.
And something also very telling about this is that, well, apparently, like Nerus was doing like his busy work and had been doing it for a long time, but it wasn't until the Shapeshifter Gathering, where he introduced Shax to Nomino, that Nomino suddenly wanted to, for some reason, start the war again. Like, the shapeshifters knew that a war would eventually come, but apparently it was a surprise for everyone that it would come so early, so fast. And the timing is quite suspicious because it was like a year after Nerus introduced Shax to Nomino. So maybe finding Shax there made him had a realization. I don't know. Maybe he found out like angels and shapeshifters could exist together.
Or are basically the same thing, or could like live in each other's bodies. Hey.
So maybe that was enough motivation for him to try to make this plan. And that's why he told Shax that, well, they were not really enemies. Well, this brings us to another point, like who's kidnapping the soul amnesiacs and why?
I think the angels are kidnapping the shapeshifters that have soul amnesia.
So they can be reincarnated into angels again?
Yep, I think that's like the most likely thing. And that's why someone went looking for Shax. Like, Shax, it's probably important, or at least it's like notorious. And an angel came to him to take him away. But Shax convinced the other angels that he wanted to be with Nero as long as possible.
Oh yeah, there's a little bit of going on to the next thing. There's a little detail that I noticed when editing is that whenever Shax talks, his text box is displayed in green color, but it also has a pattern of a hourglass. And whenever Nerus talks, he has a pattern of a soul. Like when he talked about the soul amnesiacs and how shapeshifters work, they displayed like this little ball covered with fire. And whenever Nerus talks, this little ball covered with fire is displayed in his text box.
I don't know. I just think it's interesting. Those are a couple of our theories, but I'm sure there are more to dig from this story. And I really think the author really like put a lot of effort into crafting this visual novel and this story, because it is pretty thoughtful. Like all the clues, all the things that the author doesn't want you to know, the romance, the big picture, the world building. Like, there is a lot of joys in this story, and I really thank him for writing it. And if you let us, like, maybe keep reading the next chapter to find a lot of more answers of the world and to see what happens to Nerus, to see if he got depressed.
So yeah, tell us what you think in the comment box. We'll be reading your comments and maybe answering them. And remember to tell Nero if you want us to keep reading. Okay, so thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy it, and hopefully we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.